on the tarmac in cash and other currency to the mullahs of Iran that chant death to Israel and death to America. Take a look.
Did he tell Putin that I'll release or ultimately relax sanctions?
Senator, what you need to conduct your role, your appropriate role, I will provide you today. That is United States policy with respect to the issues you request. You asked me about U.S. policy with respect to sanctions, and I can confirm to you that no commitment has been made to change those policies in any way. Just so the facts are clear, the previous administration is the one that enabled Russia to have the capacity that they have in Syria today.
I'm not defending the previous administration, Mr. Secretary. I want this administration to continue doing what's working.
Its policy, this administration's policy. You're advocating for the continuation of this administration's policy. I think that's important for everyone to understand.
North Korea still has chemical and biological weapons and brutalizes its own people. And again, there's no verifiable evidence that North Korea is denuclearization.
Senator, we have.
So I am afraid that at this point, the United States, the Trump administration, is being taken for a ride.
Fear not, Senator. Fear not.
There's no evidence to the contrary.
Fear not, Senator.
There's no evidence.
Senator, fear not. May I?
Yes, please.
I guess you didn't ask a question, so I'll.
No, that's all right. Yeah. You can please answer.
Fear not. This administration has taken enormously constructive actions that have put us in a place that is far better than in either of the two previous administrations, one Republican, one Democrat. We have put sanctions regime in place that is unequaled. We are continuing to enforce that sanctions regime.
No missiles fired over Japan, dismantled nuclear test site, hostages turned home. We'll have the bodies of Americans killed in that war sent back, and we're talking about denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and no bribery. Now, last but definitely not least tonight, some major breaking news out of the deep state. This is important. Moments ago, a group of 11 House Republicans have officially now introduced articles of impeachment against the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, the guy that signed the last FISA warrant, after months of obstructing what is congressional subpoenas and failing to comply with these subpoenas and inhibiting the important investigation into FISA abuse, the Russia witch hunt, and so much more. Rod Rosenstein must now be held accountable. It's called congressional government oversight. It's called checks and balances, co-equal branches of government, and yes, the United States Constitution. And it's time for Rod Rosenstein to be held accountable. We got a lot to get to tonight, a lot of reaction. Rudy Giuliani in a minute. Joining us first with reaction is former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Joe DeGenova, and Fox News contributor Sarah Carter. Sarah, we'll start with you in the breaking news. I think Joe has a lot to say.
Joe does have a lot to say. One of the things that happened today, I think it was the straw that broke the camel's back, Sean, was the fact that when Meadows and Jordan went to meet with the DOJ and FBI, once again, they refused to comply. They said they were in compliance with giving the documents over to Congress. There was, I guess, a lot of arguing back and forth. Jordan and Meadows said they weren't in compliance, that after 9 months, they still didn't even know how many documents they needed to turn over to them. There was another issue that came up, which I thought was very interesting. The FBI did agree with Congressman Jordan that Strzok did not answer 90% of the questions that he could have answered, that he took a very, very broad interpretation. This is Peter Strzok when he provided testimony, the FBI agent. So they are going to be calling Peter Strzok back to testify before Congress, and hopefully he will be answering a lot of the questions that Congressman Jordan had asked him that he refused to answer.
Let me go to you, Joe. He was under oath, and, you know, if you did have your past job, I don't think I would be under oath. But more importantly, let's go to Rod Rosenstein. This is a guy, he signed the fourth warrant, which was the bulk of information, was that phony Russian dossier paid for by Clinton. They didn't tell the FISA court judges. They didn't verify the information. They didn't follow the law. They didn't follow FBI protocol. And Rod Rosenstein signed the last one, the third renewal, the fourth altogether. Your reaction?
Well, there's no doubt that Rod Rosenstein deserves everything that he's getting. Whether or not impeachment is the right way to go doesn't even matter anymore. Rosenstein, remember, didn't even read the final application. He had people explain to him what was in it. Rosenstein is the one responsible for the crisis that the president has faced in the Mueller probe. Without Rosenstein, there is no Mueller probe. He did it purposely to avoid having to make difficult decisions in a political investigation. He should be ashamed of himself. He's getting precisely what he deserves. But what's more important than that, Sean, is that you are watching a president of the United States who is astride the globe, and he is being assisted ably by a Secretary of State in full. We no longer have a namby-pamby foreign policy. We have a Secretary of State who today performed beyond any expectations any Americans could expect of a Secretary of State. I was amazed at Pompeo's performance, and I can tell you the president is really pleased, especially because of the outrageous performance of the Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coats, in Aspen, when he kissed the feet of Andrea Mitchell and criticized the President of the United States. Shame on Dan Coats.
I watched Pompeo today, and I literally felt finally.
Fabulous.
No apologies. Finally, strength. And he laid out all the things that the president, NBC, though, I think reported that he's an agent of Russia, is doing to Russia. But the irony, too, here is, look, we cannot ignore. I got to get your take on this FISA. Listen, if I lied to a FISA judge or I lied to any judge, you couldn't get me out of jail, as great an attorney as you are. If I did obstructed like Hillary, you couldn't get me out of jail.
Over.
What?
Sean, this case is over. The FBI under Obama and the Department of Justice under Obama with John Carlin, the Assistant Attorney General for National Security, lied to the FISA court, hid material information from the FISA court. It is an outrageous abuse of power, and if Jeff Sessions and Rod Rosenstein have not begun a grand jury to investigate all the people involved in the phony dossier and everything involved on it, ultimately, when Mueller is done, Rosenstein and Sessions should be fired. This is a clear case of criminal law violation in the FISA application. It was clearly a fraud committed on the FISA court, and it is beyond belief that nothing publicly known has been done to hold accountable everybody involved in the signing of those applications to the FISA court.
Sarah, real quick, because we got to run, but you've been amazing on all of this.
I couldn't agree more with Joe. I just want to say really quick, remember what they did leave out of the FISA was the fact that Bruce Orr at the DOJ said that Christopher Steele would do anything to keep Donald Trump from being president. And I think that's all we need to say.
They didn't say that Hillary paid for it and that these were unverified Russian lies. Robert Mueller, there's your Russia story. Go find it. We laid it on a platter for you. Thank you all. When we come back, all right, the president's attorney, Rudy Giuliani. We have a live report up from Catherine Herridge on these articles of impeachment introduced. A ton of breaking news. Stay right there. Fox News alert moments ago, Congressman Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan, along with 9 co-sponsors, now have introduced articles of impeachment against the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein. Here with a new update on this is Catherine Herridge in Washington. Catherine, what's going on?
Thanks, Sean. Good evening. The articles of impeachment call out the Deputy Attorney General and allege a conflict of interest. These heavily redacted records released over the weekend show Rosenstein signed off on the last surveillance warrant renewal in June 2017 for Trump campaign aide Carter Page. These lawmakers say that's a big deal because their committees are investigating government surveillance abuse. Quote, Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein's failure to recuse himself in light of this inherent conflict of interest and failure to recommend the appointment of a second special counsel constitute dereliction of duty. After lawmakers met with senior DOJ and FBI officials earlier today, reporters were told FBI agent Peter Strzok avoided too many questions during his recent congressional testimony, and he will likely be recalled. The closed-door depositions from Strzok and FBI lawyer Lisa Page identified records previously unknown to lawmakers about a file documenting FBI efforts to verify the controversial Trump dossier. Lawmakers question whether verification happened before the dossier was used by the FBI as evidence to secure the surveillance warrant.
Verification or the attempt to verify by the dossier, did that begin before or after it was used in the FISA application?
Well, I think that when you look at that, that's the key question that we're looking at these documents. When did it start? And I think those start dates could be problematic for some of the narratives that are out there right now.
Heading into the meeting today, Justice Department officials indicated to Fox News that they believe they have complied with the majority of congressional subpoenas. On the articles of impeachment tonight, there was no immediate response. And in the last hour, Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein and Congressman Adam Schiff called the Republicans' move deeply partisan, Sean.
All right, Catherine Herridge in Washington, thank you for that report. Now with us is the president's attorney, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Mr. Mayor, great to see you.
Sean, good to see you.
All right, a lot of news. Let's get your reaction to Congressman Meadows, Jordan, and more importantly, the third renewal, the fourth FISA warrant Rod Rosenstein signed off on.
Rob Rosenstein is one of the people in charge of this case, so I'm not going to get involved in critiquing his conduct unless at the end we have to. I'm hopeful he's going to make the right decision. I see the case falling apart. I see in front of my eyes what happened yesterday with the first of Cohen's tape, what happened today with the one with Chris Cuomo, which is not Cuomo's fault, it's his fault. That one, I mean, they've been saying all along, did the president know about it? Cohen says on the tape he didn't know about it. Did Cohen pay for it? Cohen said he paid for it. Was it for the campaign or was it personal? Cohen says it was personal. Over and over again. Not just one, it's a 2-hour tape. And Cuomo, like a reporter, presses him, and he sticks with his story. Why? Totally, with regard to that particular situation, once again, totally legitimate conduct.
From what we read of this was a 2-hour conversation, but let's go back to last night for just a second. And you have listened to that tape how many times? And some say that it's a check, and you say that the president said check.
The president said, I have it right here.
I have the transcript.
I had 5 people go over it, and then another 5. You got to listen to it 4 or 5 times, which is when I talked about mafia tapes. I wasn't talking about this being a mafia tape. I said, I'm an expert on tapes. I did 4,000 hours of men on tape saying, hey, Rocco, what are we going to do today?
Oh, my God. So, we're going to put you in the next movie.
Yeah, I wanted to. Yeah. Donald Trump says, don't pay with cash. Interruption. Cohen, no. I got it. Check. No. And then very, very suspiciously, he cuts the tape off because it's a very, very innocent, very solid explanation. Now, here's another reason it had to be checked. Before it, they talk about doing it by corporation. How are they going to do cash through a corporation? $150,000.
It's impossible.
You might as well sign up for jail.
Yeah. Let's look at the big picture. The status, this has gone on. Look at the country, it's so divided. I've been very harsh in terms of, I believe that a presidential election at the highest levels, that the fix was in, that Hillary was guilty of obstruction and violating the Espionage Act, and it was rigged. I believe you see what we learned about the FISA warrants on Saturday night. They never verified the information. They never corroborated the information. They purposely withheld from the judges on 4 separate occasions that this was Hillary Clinton bought and paid for what turned out to be Russian lies. There's a Russia conspiracy here. There's a Russian influence.
If you look at, theoretically, one of the things they're concerned about, did the president obstruct justice when he fired Comey? First of all, he has a right to do it in Article 2. Secondly, he made it clear to Lester Holt he did it knowing that the investigation would continue, so he couldn't have obstructed it. And third, he had about 50 reasons for doing it, including the Horowitz report that kind of outlines it all.
The witness say is Rod Rosenstein.
On the other hand, how does Hillary not get prosecuted for destroying tapes, lying at least 3 or 4 times, having people tell totally phony stories, false exculpatory statements, destruction of evidence? That's all evidence of intent, corrupt intent.
So let's go.
And Mueller reads that all away as if it didn't exist.
You told Laura last night.
Not Mueller, excuse me.
I know, you got
Comey.
it. Comey, got it. You told Laura Ingraham last night that there are no more tapes on Donald Trump. Everyone's reporting it. There's 12 tapes. It makes it sound like
Avenatti was running around all weekend saying he said it on ABC. He actually said he got it from Cohen, and I mean, he says it on TV. Dershowitz cross-examined him brilliantly and got him to say he got the tapes from Cohen, and there were numerous tapes with President Trump. Well, the government must be hiding them if that's the case, and I assure you, the Southern District of New York is not hiding evidence. In fact, I can't imagine.
Some of the best prosecutors came out of there.
I can't imagine they aren't shocked by this unbelievable assault on the attorney-client privilege. My God.
Yeah.
I never heard of this.
America's been following this, and I've been given a very different narrative that is really everything we've reported has come true. I wish some of it was wrong, by the way. And I still say that the heroes in this are going to be FBI and CIA guys. My question to you is this now coming to an end? Because you talked last night, and I watched Alan Dershowitz after, that there won't be any talk about obstruction with the president. Then is there going to be a subpoena fight? Is there going to be any discussion about collusion? And why would you ever allow him to talk to this group of people, which I have very strongly criticized?
Well, it certainly is a big barrier. There's no reason to talk about obstruction because Article 2 precludes obstruction. The defenses to obstruction are overwhelming, including what I told you, his saying he knew the